Welcome. Tonight, we're going to have some fun. We're going to meet the person behind the voice when you call the Select Board's office. The one that we affectionately call the town piñata, because it seems like the first row of defense is directed straight at him. Why don't we start with an introduction?
Yes, my name is Rick Villanni. I'm the town administrator. I started April 1st, 2013, April Fool's Day, which is interesting. Prior to that, I began a practice of law in 1982. I worked for a firm until 1996. 1996, I went out on my own. And around 2012, this position became available. I did some real due diligence. I talked with many town officials before even making the decision to put my name in the hat for the position. Fortunately, I did get the position. At the time, I wasn't dissatisfied with the practice of law, but I was looking for something different. Again, I passed the bar in 1982, so 42 years ago.
I was going to say, it's a while ago.
I don't know where it went. So I have one son, Chris, born and raised in Milford, graduate of Milford High School like yourself. I did go to St. Mary's for 3 years and got caught in the transition, so to speak, when it closed. Married to the same woman for many, many years. Unfortunately, I lost her to cancer about 5 years ago. She was a strength in helping me to apply for this position. She gave me the courage and the stamina to say, let's try it. And here I am.
St. Mary's, you went 3 years. I went 3 hours.
Did you? 3 hours? Yeah.
You know, my mother put me in first grade, and after when recess came, I ran home.
That was it?
My mother showed up home and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Mom, the girl next to me got hit with a 2x4. It was a big ruler for talking.
Yeah.
They're going to kill me."
Oh, yeah. They used to tape them up, too. They had them
I said,
pre-designed.
"They're going to kill me
Yeah.
because I know I'll talk too much."
Yeah.
But as you look, you have a successful career going. You went to school. You went to law school. You did all the right things. What made you consider going into municipal government?
One, I was looking for something different. Two, I was a trustee at the Milford Geriatric Authority, countryside of Milford, for 20-plus years. So I did have some familiarity there with town government. Obviously, I knew a lot of the people in town government at the time. I just thought it would be a refreshing change. I enjoy communicating with people. I enjoy working with people. I saw this as an opportunity to do that and get involved in the community. You know, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have kids. Sometimes you don't have the time to put back in. I got in late. I was 56 when I accepted this position. I'm now 67. I was mainly looking for a change, and this looked like a very good opportunity. I wanted to stay local, too, was the other thing. I've never worked outside of Milford, never had a commute longer than 5 minutes. And I know a lot of people envy that, and that was part of the decision.
5-minute commute. Yes. As I remember when I was commuting to L.A. twice a week.
Oh, God bless you.
Obviously, you don't hate the job because you could have gone back, you could have done anything you wanted, and now it's been a number of years and you're still doing it.
Yes.
And I assume you're going to do it till you retire.
Yes, this will. In fact, I have discontinued my law practice. I am not practicing law. I haven't done that in a number of years, other than a little thing here or there for a family member or something. So this will be my, final
This
stop.
will be your swan song.
This will be my final stop. I enjoy it very much. There are some aggravations, as you say. Unfortunately, when there's an issue, the first number they seem to find is the select board office. A lot of time I feel like a switchboard operator sometimes. Send it to the Board of Health, send it to the clerk. But other times you have to deal with those issues from the public. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the people I've got to meet. You, for example, I mean, we probably were acquaintances maybe way back when, but really didn't know each other. So I still enjoy it, or I wouldn't quite honestly still
Rick,
be
if
doing it.
somebody asks you, what do you do all day? What is a town administrator? How would you answer?
That's a great question. One thing I do like about the position is when I was practicing law, I pretty knew much what I was going to do the day before. I knew what I was going to do the next day. I was going to go to court. I was going to do a closing. Here, you don't have that. Every day is unique. Every day is different. Most of it, quite honestly, was what I call customer service. We're dealing with residents with who have issues, directing them maybe to the proper office that they need to talk to maybe discuss a problem. I mean, I do other things. Obviously, it's day-to-day operation of Town Hall. I do all of the projects at Town Hall, the new roof, the floors, the bathrooms, picket. We handle that. Public records requests. We do all licensing, so all alcohol licenses, Class 2 auto licenses, things like that. I get involved, obviously, in the budgets, as you know, payroll. But a lot of the day is spent dealing with people. And that's what I enjoy, and that's what I like. Every day is different. The law was getting a little stale.
I joke about you being the town piñata, but if I have an issue, who do I start with? Select board.
Yes,
But they're not full-time.
correct.
So I dial 634-2303
Yeah,
and right to your office.
right to my office, correct. Yeah.
Now, how do you deal with the fact that you're taking all the frustration? I mean, I can't imagine too many people call and say, Rick, I just wanted to call you to tell you life is good, I'm happy.
I always kid when I get that occasional compliment. I make sure the women who work for me outside in my office know we got a good one today. But again, people are sometimes frustrated. They're looking for a solution to a unique problem that only affects them. One of the hardest things is to be able to I have to say to them rather, that I really can't help you. I can't solve your problem. And that's difficult to do. But you get used to it. There are times when you might want to blow up, but you can't. You know that, and you don't. But there are many times I go home and I say, I had a good day. I resolved one or two issues for someone, in addition to conducting the daily business that I need to conduct. And as you know, we have great people at Town Hall. I mean, you know, I don't have to name them. You know them because you've worked with them one-on-one and in groups. And that makes it much, much easier.
Now, Milford being, we keep calling it a little town. It's not so little anymore.
Not when you and I grow up. It's not that Milford. How many times do you hear that comment?
But do you think it's easier to be in a town as close as Milford? I mean, if you were a town administrator of Framingham or Worcester, you wouldn't know the people as well.
Correct.
Benefit or drawback?
I think it's a benefit. The fact that I do know the town, obviously born and raised, grew up here. I know a lot of the people in town government, got to know them. Unfortunately now some of them are much, much younger than I am. I knew their parents. I see it as a benefit, knowing as a Milfordian, I grew up here, what my expectations are for the town, what I'd like to see the town be. It's a benefit. Can it be a drawback? Absolutely, because sometimes, the joke in Milford is everybody's related to everybody else. So you're going to get that call where they're looking for something, but it's more in the favor area, and you can't really deliver. And that's a tough call to have sometimes. But you have to apply everybody.
Yeah, but you've got to stay within the rules.
You've got to treat everybody as best you can.
That's what I'm saying. The rules are saying
yeah,
it's got to be an equitable
yeah,
distribution of favors.
yeah. And sometimes people are emotional. They will get heated. You try to calm them down. And so far I've been successful in doing that. There are some people, as you and I know, in the world that you just are
You're not going to win.
You're not going to win. You're not going to agree. And at that point, you've got to respectfully disagree. And fortunately, I'm not on Facebook, so I don't deal with that. But I still think it's a benefit. And as I know and as you know, all our prior town administrators were from Milford. We have not gone outside. That's not so common in surrounding towns. and the other towns in the Commonwealth.
You know, it's funny because when I came back to Milford, I was gone for 10 years.
Yep.
And I loved living in Paris. I loved living in Washington.
Sure.
But it wasn't the same.
Right. Yeah.
There was something about walking into town hall and knowing John from school, knowing Lana from her mother and father,
Sure. Yeah.
knowing all these people,
Yep.
that you just felt more comfortable.
Yeah. And again, I do see it as a positive. I do not see it as a negative. In fact, I'll be honest, at the time I applied for the position, if it wasn't Milford and others, I was not looking at other towns. Again, I came in kind of inexperienced. They took a chance on me, and I hope they feel that it was a chance worth taking. There were other people in the field much more qualified on
Yeah, but
paper, but I don't think
You
that's
had
the whole
a
job.
strong advocate. I mean, a lot of people trusted Dino's judgment.
Yep.
And when he came out strong for you,
Yep, that helped.
I wouldn't say it's an automatic,
No. Yeah.
but you do get the benefit of the doubt coming in.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm forever grateful to that board for the appointment and for the successor boards that I work for. I've learned from each and every one of them.
But that just got you in the door.
Correct,
if-
that's all it did. That's all
You know,
it
at
did.
the end of the day, you got a 3-year contract, and
Yep.
you wouldn't have gotten a renewal if you
they
didn't
weren't.
do the job.
I hope that's the case, and I think that's the case, yes, yeah.
Well, I mean, you remember way back when Bill Buckley was on the select board, he made a point that he said, I'm being judged by the people I appoint
Right,
and hire,
right,
so I'm going to make up my own mind.
yep, yep,
And in a way, that was profound because it's true.
yep,
If you hire somebody that's not doing the job, people are going to come right back at you.
yeah, and it reflects poorly on you. I think an advantage I had, and still have, is the people I work with. I always tell them that if they're good at what they do, they're gonna make me look good. They have specialties. I always tell them, Zach's a specialist, the town engineer is a specialist. I'm a generalist. As I did a general practice of law, I'm doing a general practice here. I need to know who to get the problem to, how to administer that problem, and then how to get the results.
Well, that's the same thing when people say how well financially we are.
Yes.
I blame the department heads
Yeah, yeah,
because without them,
yeah,
the finance committee counts the beans, but
Yeah.
if there's no beans to count,
yeah. Or the beans aren't being handled properly. Yeah, yeah.
you know, and we're lucky that so many people that are running departments are transparent, they're open. I mean, I can call Scotty and say, what's going on with this road?
Yeah.
I may not like his answer.
But you're not gonna get a runaround.
You know, he's going to tell you up front, I don't have enough money to do more than these this year.
Yep, yep,
Okay?
Yep.
So what can I say?
Yeah.
Make money?
yeah, yeah. And I think the good thing is we can have that dialogue. We can disagree. I mean, you and I, not you and I, but the finance committee and the select board have disagreed
Oh,
at
yeah.
times over the years. But we were always able to get to a resolution, and then when we got to that resolution, what? We were fine. We shook hands afterwards.
mean,
you know what I'm saying? There was no animosity.
In a few
created.
months, we're going to start the annual ritual of we're broke, we're
yeah,
destitute,
yeah, I've got it.
right?
Yes.
And the school committee and other departments saying we need $1 billion increase.
Right, right. Yeah,
And we get through it,
yeah,
and then at the end, we say, okay, now what's realistic?
yeah. And we get there.
I mean, some of the things like the ADA allowance, it's a huge number. And we
Yeah.
all agreed that we would put you on the spot, hand you $150,000 a year,
Yes, yeah,
and let you work with all the departments as to who gets what
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
And I think that's worked out well.
it's worked out very well. We'll share that pot, as you call it, and they're all obviously very worthwhile projects. They're always, those projects I especially like because of the assistance it's giving to people, whether it's access or what have you. Those are nice projects to do.
Do people understand what the select board controls?
Yes and no. Yes, I think they understand that they're overall policy makers, but I don't think they understand how fragmented we are. We have elected officials, highway, clerk, assessor.
And they're on the same level as the select board.
They certainly are. I can't go tell Scott Christofouli what to do.
As I was going to say, I mean, realistically, the school committee, those 7 individuals control 60-odd% of our budget.
Greatest percent of the budget.
And every year when we get together, I mean, obviously, their role is to advocate for the kids.
Yes.
But we can't tell them, you only get this much money, or all we can do is show them what we have and say, in our opinion, this is how much we can afford to put into schools.
Yeah. And each department head, I don't fault them for advocating for their individual department when it comes to budget time. But at some point, like you said, the pot's only so big, and it's got to be shared, and tough decisions sometimes need to be made. Same with the capital process that I know you're very well aware of.
It's always interesting because you turn around and say, if there were projects like gold toilets or, overly exorbitant projects, you could say, that's cute, no.
Yeah.
Problem is like last year, the year before, when we find out that our police officers are being sent into the field, and their radios, if they're down by Olivas, pick up Franklin Fire Department.
Yeah, isn't that,
I remember you and Chris coming up saying, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't have.
Right.
Now let's work together and figure out.
Yeah.
And luckily, I'm always amazed at town meeting because they're very, very rarely wrong.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You got 200 separate opinions that somehow come together.
Yeah.
And come out with the right answer.
Yeah. So if it means putting off, I know a number of years I put off painting town hall. It's somewhat cosmetic. At some point we had to do it. We did it. The floors, you don't know the grief I got from certain people at town hall for not doing those floors. The project starting right after the election, by the way. But because of the carpeting being, it's pretty well dated and worn. But those are the types of projects you can put off because the police might need something, because a boiler goes. I mean, that's not a very sexy item, but you got to have the boiler working.
Before we put together the final capital plan, when the chairman of the FinCom, you and Zach got together and went through the capital plan. And a lot of the times it was like, we were so lucky that first Chief Toohey, now Chief Nelson, you could have honest conversations saying, how badly do you need this Toohey toy this year?
Right.
And it was a trust thing because the FinCom had to trust the select board that you would agree to something and stick to it.
Right.
When we'd say, can you get another year out of that truck?
Right.
But the fire chief had to trust that next year the money will be there.
Right.
Because if he says, I'll pass it over this year, and next year you say, no.
No, yeah.
And then it takes a year and a half to deliver a fire truck.
Yeah.
And those dang fire trucks, $1 million for a pumper now.
Yeah, they are expensive. They're obviously sent out. Where is it? Pennsylvania. I think the large truck was built, and it takes a while. Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge you face day to day?
Day to day, I think the biggest challenge is dealing again with residents who may have an issue, trying to resolve their problems. The other challenge would be just coordinating department heads at town hall, especially when they're on a joint project. That can become difficult at times. Fortunately, again, we have very good people that do work together, because often I always say to Zach, there's probably not a decision I make that doesn't involve some type of financial consideration. There's also many decisions I make that town council needs to be, has to weigh in on. So trying to coordinate sometimes to make sure everybody's on the same page, everybody's dealing with the same issue in the same way.
And there again, the Milford way, having 2 barristers for the price of 1.
We've been very fortunate in that area.
we just went through the whole question about Benjamin Moore, and Jerry was the person who started it.
I grabbed the file, and just way back when, his file to look at. Yeah, we've been the first couple of years, I always kidded, Jerry's office is next to mine. I'd spend more time in his office because of that history, because of that experience he had. And here we are, 12 years later. I actually interned for Jerry back in 1981. So he was town council then. I was in my second year of law school, and I interned a summer at Town Hall. Jerry Moody was town council.
Well, I always got a kick out of asking, should we annex Brian Murray's office?
Yeah.
Because it seemed like all too often when we needed files, all the way back to Paul Revere's ride,
Yeah.
they were held in Brian's Water Street office.
I must confess that a couple of times I was looking for something over the years, mentioned it to Brian, and that afternoon,
It shows up.
that file was in my office.
You know, it amazed me.
Meticulous keeping files. Meticulous, yeah.
And the fact he kept them that long.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, keeping them is one thing, but
Yeah.
having them organized
Yeah.
so you can
I
get
think-
to them.
I think he learned that from his dad. And we're very fortunate with Brian. Now it's a tremendous advantage that he's state rep, so that if there are questions at the state level, I can just walk
Right,
50
right.
feet and sit down in front of him, and we can have a discussion, whether it be a grant, a piece of legislation, whatever.
Do people actually accept the fact that we're a $165 million corporation?
I'm not so sure, because I think it was less than 100 when I started in 2013.
Well, when we started the show, it's because we broke the $70 million budget number.
Oh, really? Okay.
You know, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah. I believe it was about 95 or so in 2013. You would have just completed that budget when I started, but and it has expanded, yeah.
Because the questions come up, you know, when I joked the other day about a mini Villanni,
Yeah.
I sat there and said, wait a second. It's $160 million company we're running
Yeah,
with one guy
yeah,
taking care of, you know, to
Yeah.
me, you remind me of the military's got the staff sergeant with all
Oh,
the
yeah,
stripes.
yeah, yeah.
That if you need something done, if you need to know what's going on,
That's
you go to that guy.
that's the guy. Yeah,
But there's only one of you.
right. Yeah.
Now we're trying to fix that at the town meeting coming up.
Hopefully, we are going to rectify that situation. I think it's time. I really do. Just the resident issues alone, the records requests, the budget itself, as you just said, not quite doubling, but almost close from when I started. Certainly more than doubling from 20 years ago. I think it's time to have a full-time assistant town administrator. And I think we will benefit as a town if we do that.
Well, we had the same philosophical discussion when Kristen came on.
Right, HR, yep.
And people asked, why do we need a full-time HR person?
I was one of those people, I have to admit.
Because we're a 100 million plus company,
Yeah.
and just the volume, we
Yeah.
we risk making mistakes.
Yes, yeah. I was one of those people, but remember, I came from a small law firm, a sole practitioner.
We had two people to worry about.
I had no HR to, it was me and a paralegal.
Right, so two people.
So two people. So I was one of those people saying, do we really need to do this? I will tell you very unequivocally now, yeah, I was wrong. We did need it. I'm glad Kristen is here, and the prior HR director was very good too. We do need it, because before, quite honestly, it fell to me, a non-HR professional. It fell somewhat to legal, still a non-HR professional. And
Well,
I'm not sure we did as good a job.
I value her because she'll tell me what's mandatory legally,
Yeah.
and then what's right.
You're right, yeah.
Because I've always lived on the premise that Milford, we do what's right.
Exactly, yep.
we got to be legal,
Got to be compliant, correct.
but realistically, the first time we did some payroll changes, I was so confused.
Yeah.
We have to do these 10% increases in salary to be competitive.
Right.
So then I asked, I said, are we competitive? Well, yeah, we are.
Yeah. Right.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How can you say we need to increase 10%
Yeah.
to be competitive?
Right.
And the proof of the pudding was when we go to hire, fill positions, are we getting qualified candidates? Oh, yeah, plenty of them. When we hire them, are they staying? Yes, we don't lose many people.
So yeah, and I had those same
And
questions.
nobody
Yeah.
could explain
Right.
why. But, the joke for me is if I want to spend $2 on my cup of coffee, it's my money. I work for it.
Right.
I get to do it.
Yeah.
But if we spend $2 of town money, now you got to be careful.
Now you got to be careful. Yeah,
We got a town meeting coming up.
we do.
There's always this mystery and concerns about how's the warrant put together. Do you have any pithy comments to explain?
It's pretty simple when you really think about it. The select board will set a date. I send out a form, an article, what they call an article submission form, to all department heads. They then send it back to me. It's actually, they're able to email it directly to me, to my email. It's then put together by me. First of all, I put together what I call my master list of the articles by department. Then it goes to legal. They then reword certain articles. They then determine the order that we should place the articles on the town meeting warrant. So it's really sending out an article request form, basically, getting it back, and then coordinating it with legal.
But now, if I want an article, the easiest way I understand is to have a department head. Like if I want something done in the park, to have the Parks Department sponsor an article.
Correct, yes.
What happens if I just want it and I can't get a sponsor?
Then you're looking at a citizen's petition, 10 signatures.
Is that it?
Well, 10 for the May annual, 100 for the special town meeting. And then it goes on the warrant. Some people think the select board could say, I want to put that on the warrant. That's not true. If you get your signatures, and assuming they're validated and
Yes.
verified, your article's on the warrant. Now you have to go pitch it, though. And as you know, you have to convince those 200 or 150, however many of the quorum is that night, that your article is worthy of whether it's money, funding, or maybe it's a bylaw change or planning, something like that.
Now, realistically, we end up with 30 to 40 articles.
30 this time, which is a little light, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we had 40 last time.
I think at least that, yes.
Now, and you mentioned we have our meeting and our special meeting.
Yeah.
What does that mean to the non-Milford government people?
Well, I think you framed it very well. The annual is for less financial, as far as capital. We do the budget, obviously. And the special town meeting is more of the capital request. You're looking for, in the annual, a lot of them are what we call repetitive or recurring type articles. At the special, it's the whole kitchen sink. We have a number of, as you know, financial articles. We have some that want to change, for example, personnel board bylaws. We have some that want to change zoning bylaws. Do we need to be compliant with a particular state statute that came out? So it's kind of the kitchen sink there.
It's always amazing to me because before, as we're sitting down before the town meeting starts, we look over the warrant and say, which article that means nothing will take up most of the time?
Well, I think we've always said that, the $165 million budget,
Boom.
2 minutes. The $5,000 widget somewhere.
Or the chicken.
Or anything that deals with chicken or roosters or something like that, dig in, because
2 hours we spent on chickens.
It's gonna take a while, yeah. And we've had some controversial topics, so obviously the casino, the marijuana legislation, the pot shops, things like that, that we've dealt with over the years. Those, are obviously topics that are pointed that, you're on one side or the other. There's no mid on
Yeah.
those. So we've dealt with those, and I think we've dealt with them very well.
Well, like I say, I've been really proud of town meeting because you get two sides to the stories all the time. Some of it accurate, some of it not so
Right,
accurate.
yeah.
But at the end, they always seem to come out with the right answer.
Yeah. Well, I think people forget it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have differing opinions. I tell my department heads, please argue with me. Tell me that there's another way to do it. And often they will convince me that, yeah, you know what, now that I'm listening to you, let's try that. And I think people don't realize, and I think you've said this in the past, all the work that goes in prior to town meeting. We don't just show up.
Well, see, that's one
And
of
that
the
people
impressions.
don't understand that. They say, oh, you always agree. It's always,
It's
it's a
always-
voice vote, for example.
Yeah.
But a lot of work has gone into so that I am comfortable, our town meeting members are comfortable in voting the way they vote. And I think people don't, maybe they don't see it enough.
Well, when
Or have
people say
time
you
to
never argue, it's always just approved.
I hear that often, yes.
I sit there and say you should come to the subcommittee meetings.
Yeah,
Like on the school budget,
yeah,
we start where we're destitute. They need $1 billion increase.
yeah,
And then we say what's realistic and what can we get away with.
yeah.
And so by the time it comes to the budget town meeting, because at the end of the day, we have to break even.
Yeah, we do not want to be doing those other things that, we don't talk about, correct, yeah,
We don't want to use profanity.
yeah.
And the most profane words I've ever heard are Article 2 override and debt
Debt
exclusion.
exclusion, correct. And
We may have to with the new school, but
we'll see. We thought that with Woodland, though, didn't we? a
and we
little
thought
bit?
that with Brookside.
And I wasn't around for Brookside, but Woodland I was around for, yeah. But people say that to me all the time. Why isn't there true discussion at town meeting? Again, a lot of it has done behind the scenes over the past how many months? And I've had some subcommittee meetings, that we
Yeah,
raise
when it-
voices even.
When we hear it behind the scenes, but it's in public.
Right.
It's not smoke-filled rooms in the back of town
Right.
hall.
Yeah.
Everything with the open meeting law.
Yeah, there's that issue of that favorite word, transparency. Everything, I can't tell you the increase in public records requests in the last couple of years. Just a myriad.
Now, how
of
does that
public
work?
records
If I
requests.
have a FOIA, a Freedom of Information
Yep.
Act request, I just send it to you and what happens?
Yes, I'm actually the records access officer, so if you go on the town website, that's another one of the hats I do wear. So it comes directly to me. A lot of times it goes to the clerk's office, but for whatever reason, it was set up that the town administrator would be the records access officer, which is fine. It will come to me. I then review it. Most of them, I'd say 95 out of 100, I will just handle myself, because they're things such as someone's doing a new building, so they want permits and plans. So I'll send a notice to engineering, to inspections, to planning, to get those records and send them to them. There are some records that are more sensitive, that might be an issue of, can we release it? Or can we release it, but do we need to
Redact certain
parts of it? I will often get town council involved in those type of requests. They aren't that frequent, by the way. They're pretty rare. Always the issue of executive session minutes comes up quite often. Some of those you can release. If you had a union contract, you settled it, and it's gone, boom, you send it out. Some of those you just never going to
But
release.
if you're in the
'cause
middle of a negotiation,
it will not be released. If we're in the middle of a litigation in a court case, it will not be released. Medical records, something that might be due in a grievance proceeding, for example, will not be released.
well, I mean, that to me seems HIPAA laws are HIPAA laws.
Yeah, and we're not
You
going to
can't
violate.
say that I have a stubbed toe,
Right, yeah.
no matter how bad somebody wants to know if I stubbed my toe.
Yeah. People are curious, and they have a right to file records requests. They can be difficult at times, especially where you may be taking a great deal of time from a department head or someone within a department to answer that request. You do have the right to charge a fee. I have tried not to do that over the years. I think I can count on less than 5 fingers how many times I've actually done that.
Yeah, but if I ask you once this year, once next year,
Yeah.
charging me a fee seems annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I ask you every other day,
Yeah, that might be a little, or your request is so vague or so general that it could be 1,000 to 1,500 pages, and we get those every once in
well,
a
I
while.
remember when you
You
sent
try-
me a note saying I'd like the capital subcommittee minutes
Right.
for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Luckily, I kept them,
Yeah, thank
Or-
goodness. Yeah,
because otherwise going back through the records to find them would have been a lot of time.
very time consuming. Again, I don't like to charge people. I don't think I've ever, maybe once or twice, even charged for copying, unless it's voluminous. Then I might, because of the time. And
Well,
the expense,
they're
know.
paying for it through their taxes anyway.
Right. So, but my belief has always been try not to charge people for what is a right that they have to ask for public records. I mean, my contract, the people's contracts, has a favorite one. Every year you'll get they would last for the town council contract and the town administrator private contract. They're public records. That's something took me a while to get used to, because obviously coming from the private
Well,
sector, everything was
You
personal.
go to the town meeting and there's a book.
Yeah.
And it says, we paid Rick Villanni $28.30.
People love picking up that book at my office, and I swear that's what they
They look at the last
immediately
pages
go to the end or the back. Yeah.
to see what is so-and-so making.
And that's okay. They should. As you said, it's their tax dollars paying my salary. I've heard that comment many times from residents over the years. I pay your salary. And in essence, in truth, they do.
Well,
in
to
some
a
respect.
reasonable
Yeah.
accommodation,
Yeah.
you have to be reasonable.
Yeah.
If I go back and say, I'd like every record dealing with the Finance Committee since Paul Revere and Al Correa served,
Yeah. That's a problem. That's a problem. And there is a procedure where we can say no or try to restrict. It will go up to the supervisor of records at the Attorney General's office. I've had maybe 2 or 3 of those
oh, is that right?
in 12 years where we've gone all the way up, did battle, and in the one instance I'm thinking that we did all of that and then we resolved it before the Attorney General even had to make a ruling, basically. So there is a process for that.
We hear a lot about open meeting law.
Yep.
What's that?
Open meeting law, as you know very well, but basically, if you're going to have a select board meeting or a FinCom meeting, you start with what? An agenda.
Agenda.
Okay? The agenda should be specific enough that if I'm a member of the public, I can reasonably anticipate what you're going to be talking about. It doesn't have to be a 50-page document, but just to say old business, that doesn't tell me anything. So you need to be specific enough that it can be reasonably anticipated what is going to be discussed. Then there are posting requirements. It has to be done within 48 hours of the meeting. Your meetings are at 7 o'clock. You got 2 days before that, 7 o'clock. Not
2
counting.
business days.
2 business days. Not holidays are excluded. Weekends are excluded. Okay? And then when you get to the open meeting law, you should be following that agenda. Now, we always put that language on the bottom. Certain other things could come up.
Yeah, unanticipated.
Yeah, exactly. But you should be trying, so if I show up at that meeting, or if it's a Zoom, whatever, as a resident, I have a pretty good idea of what you're going to discuss. Because I may only want to see one thing that your FinCom, some of your agendas, some of the select board agendas are quite lengthy. I may only want to hear or be present on one thing. And so, again, it's another way of the public having the right to be informed about what we as public officials are doing. And again, it's not a precise definition of open
No,
meeting
but it
law,
also can help, because when I was chairing meetings,
Yeah.
and somebody would bring up a topic, I'm not ready, I didn't prepare for it,
Exactly.
and realistically, if we're gonna talk about chickens, the public may want to be there to talk
Yeah.
about chickens.
Yeah.
So, in a way, it helped me, because I'd say, that's a good question, we can't discuss it because it wasn't posted.
Yeah.
we'll put it on the agenda for next
And it
meeting.
may be a department head who's not sitting in front of you at that time.
Right.
And that department head should have I assume we want that department head in front of us. I do, to get chickens, maybe you want the Board of Health or inspections in front of you. Or the town planner, or, if it's a bylaw interpretation, for example. So again, just reasonably enough that the public has a good idea of what you're going to be discussing. Not the details, but.
Right, but at least, in my mind, it's to set enough information for me as a town resident, the people who are paying our salaries.
Yeah.
Say, my salary. I want to raise this year, by the way.
We'll double.
I want to
We'll
double
We'll
the
you.
FinCom pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one between, I think it's school committee and FinCom, we can double pay every year.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
still comes out to zero.
And they're two of the most, what do I want to say, labor intensive, as far as hours put in.
But now, the open meeting law, and as much as we try, I know I get the notes from you every once in a while saying, "Hey, you skirted that one."
Yeah.
And you say, "Ooh, okay, let's bring it back."
Quite honestly, I have two, Al, so
Well, I think-
I'm not perfect.
I think it's the intent that
Yeah.
if you're not trying to hide something, people will forgive you for.
I've never had that question with anybody, to be honest with you, on open meeting law.
But
Sometimes it was just a lack of
One
knowledge.
of the things that comes up all the time is invitation to speak.
Yeah.
What is that?
That is the chair prerogative, number one. There's no requirement that I'm aware of.
And that's the key. It's up to the chair of the committee
Yeah.
whether they do it or not.
Now, do I think certain committees should have it? Select Board most certainly should have an invitation to speak. School committee should have an invitation to speak. For them to say no, I don't think would be correct. The other departments, it's a personal decision of the chair. And we've had some chairs that say, not gonna happen, for whatever reason. Send me an email, I'll determine whether or not I put it on an agenda. It's another way to handle it. But we do have residents who like to come in and, for whatever, say their piece. And again, the chair must determine. The other problem with invitation to speak sometimes, it can lead to an open meeting law violation, because you have someone that comes in talking about a topic, even if you didn't discuss it, that's number one, okay? But now your other members engage. Maybe you consider a vote. Now it could lead to more problems.
Considering the vote's the easy one to say you can't.
Yeah.
But certain issues are going to trigger emotional
No
responses.
question, I agree.
And then you got a department head sitting back saying, "You talked about something under my jurisdiction, and you never invited me."
Yeah, yeah,
Because
And-
we had a couple situations
I
where
know, yeah.
no ill intentions, but somebody finally got a platform to speak.
Right.
And they went off, and I was like, "Excuse me, we can take that up at the next meeting after it's posted."
That's a good way to handle it. That's a very
I'm
good
not
way.
telling you I'm not going to deal with it. I'll deal with it.
Yeah,
Because I believe that since you're a resident of Milford, you got the right to express your opinion. As long
exactly.
as it's honorable and
And I understand, that's the other side of the argument, which is a very solid argument. I am a resident of Milford. I want to see where my tax dollars are going, or I want to see what decisions are being made, and I want to see behind those decisions. Therefore, why can't I speak at a meeting?
and again, I think it's back to what you said. You can, but plan it because it won't be this month's meeting. It'll be next month's
Yeah.
meeting.
Or, I think what I would do is maybe you would have some ground rules that, you kind of limit the time. You hate to limit the time, but at the same sense, you've got a meeting to run, and you've got to keep it on
Yeah,
schedule.
but thank God.
You
I
know?
mean, I'm going to cause agita here, but
Uh-oh.
at town meeting, we used to have people that got up and spoke over. It was like a filibuster.
That's what I would call it, correct.
It felt like a filibuster, and the chicken one was just a lot of people talking about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
The rogue roosters running down Milford,
Yeah.
buying pot on the main street,
Yeah,
and
right.
causing avian flu.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just a consolidation of who knows where.
yeah.
But realistically, you start saying there's a limit. If you can't, in my opinion, if you can't make your point in the first 5-10 minutes, you weren't prepared.
No, and then you're going to lose people. You lose me anyway at some point. Yeah, exactly.
So, you start looking at limits make sense.
Yes.
Giving you 2 or 3 bites at the apple, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
And my hat's off to McLanzo for stepping up.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, we had Mike Nofree, right or wrong, good or bad, for decades. We got used to
We
a
were spoiled. Yeah.
certain way of things being done.
Yeah.
And now a new guy comes in, and the minute a new guy comes in, everybody has their opinion.
And you know what? When you're the new guy on the block, what happens? Everybody wants to take a little bit of advantage of it if they can.
Oh yeah,
You know that. And I
Dude.
saw that when I started as a town administrator. People
I
would say,
always wanted to do this, and the previous chair wouldn't let me.
wouldn't
So
let me do it. There you go. Yeah.
I mean, poor Andy's going through that now as the new chairman
Of
after
course he
5
is.
years.
Yeah. I've talked with Andy because you've had 3. Each of you were different and unique in your own way. Mark, Chris, and then you. Yeah. He'll be fine.
He'll find his
He'll
way.
find- he's already finding his way.
He's already gotten through one town meeting prep.
Yeah. And he's unfortunately had a couple of what I would call difficult
Oh yeah.
issues right out of the box. That's, not
Well, the
easy.
biggest one's going to be coming in 2 years when we start talking about profanity.
Yeah. And we may have to. Yeah, let's be honest.
This school is looking like, I almost choked when I heard 180 million, 200. Now it's looking closer to 3
It may be looking
or more than
north
300
of that
million.
too. I don't know, but yeah,
Well,
that's scary.
when you look at the data of Milford's one of the 3 to 5% towns whose population and schools are increasing.
Yeah.
We have to create somewhere around 400 to 500 minimum new spots.
Yeah.
New chairs.
Yeah.
And as much as the high school is our focus, as soon as the high school is done, we're going to Stacy.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no breather. Yeah.
And there's no room in Stacy. Where are you going to expand?
I don't know. Short of taking field space or something like that, you're just not going to. And
Unless you
even
take
that
over
wouldn't be practical, I don't
No.
think. Yeah.
Taking over the town park and, it
Yeah,
just makes
after
no
we
sense.
finally when we finish it next year, yeah, it's, that kind of thing.
So you turn around and say, long-term, the most economical way to add chairs is to build it in while you're doing the high school.
Yeah.
But the idea of $300 million,
Yeah, I can choke on that a little bit, yeah.
you sit there and say, when we were kids, for $100 million, you could have bought Milford, they would have thrown in Hopedale and Mendon.
Yeah. Now it doesn't even get you a school
No.
that houses how many kids? Yeah.
So what do you think are the biggest challenges coming at you?
Challenges I probably can't solve. The one thing that people complain most about is traffic in town. That's, and as you gulp. I wish I could solve it. I don't see it being able to solve it. We're trying to attack it bit by bit to try to make things better. That's one. An immediate space problem. We're going to have to do something.
I was going to ask,
We're bursting here.
if we get a mini Villanni, where do you put him or her?
I have my ideas, but they're still not solid yet as to where that person will sit.
I mean, traffic, when we grew up and Paul Revere would take us
Yeah.
on a horse
Yeah.
ride up Main
Yeah.
Street, I always
Yeah.
felt bad for the people on Dilla Street.
Right.
You bought the house, you used to have 5 cars drive by
Yeah.
a day.
Now look at it.
Now look at it.
Yeah.
But space itself.
Yeah. Space is a problem right now. It is a problem. We are looking at a couple of options. Hopefully we can do something. If we do get a new assistant town administrator, he or she will be given some of the bigger tasks like that to focus on.
Well, even if you don't, I'm assuming we will because it makes sense.
Yeah.
But
No, if not, then I'm going to have to, no question.
there's going to be
We will.
another person need to be hired eventually for something.
Yes, correct, yeah.
And when you look at town hall, it's not like you can look around and see a lot of empty offices and space.
No, and in certain offices, they're, I want to say kind of on top of each other. Yeah. So that's it. And then, as you say, managing the budget is always
Well-
always issues each and every year.
If somebody asks you, do we get a good return on our money in Milford, how would you answer?
Absolutely. absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely. The services we provide, number one, how many other towns provide the type of services that we provide with no cost? When I say no extra cost,
No extra
obviously
cost.
taxes. Our tax rate, we do try to keep it.
Well, I mean, realistically, I've heard people compare themselves to other towns to us, and they say their tax rate is the same as Milford. But some towns, you have to pay to put your kids on a school bus.
Yeah. You
To
gotta
me,
pay-
that's a tax.
You gotta pay to put them on a sports team. You gotta pay to have your barrels
The design of
picked
trash
up,
bags.
or whatever, yeah, it's on a trash bag.
I remember
Yeah.
when my daughter brought home trash when she was living in Worcester at college. And I said, what's
What are you
this?
doing, yeah?
She says, Dad, it cost me $3 a bag at home. I said, so you bring it to my house? But, you know, certain things like leaves,
Again,
Scotty picking up leaves,
yeah,
is it worth a lot? Probably not, but yeah, it is.
yeah, oh, I think it
I'm in the
is.
middle of blowing leaves,
Yeah.
miserable leaves.
Yeah, yeah,
But there's something just
yeah,
comforting about just
Yeah.
pushing them down.
yeah. No, I do think we get a good bang for our buck. I think we do. I
This
really
year we
do.
changed, and this is a
Yeah.
question I want to bring to Scotty, but
Yeah.
used to be 5 weeks rotating to pick up leaves.
Yeah,
And I remember when I was week 1, I picked up the 2 leaves in my yard.
I didn't bother at that point.
Yeah, you pick
to be
the 2
honest with
leaves
you.
up, you walk
Sorry.
them down.
Yeah.
What's the deal now?
Oh, he's going to do a rotation, so I think there are 5 or 6, I'll call them
Days.
precincts. Well, precincts, and then they'll match a day. I think my day is Monday in my neck of the woods. So every Monday, he'll be coming back. So if I put some out, say, I don't know, sometimes I have a lot of leaves, and I can't do it all in one day or one weekend. I'll put some out on Monday. I got to redo it next week. I can do it. He'll come back. So it's going to be rotating days. Your particular area where you live will be assigned a day. And the pamphlet, I think it's a great idea, and the feedback we're getting, because select board, we get a lot of the feedback at our office.
Being the piñata.
Yeah, and this is actually a good one, because people seem to be in favor of it. Because if you, like you said, if you are at the beginning, you're 2 leaves. If you're at the end, they might be under snow.
Well, I remember the first time we were at the beginning. They came, my mother came running up saying, that's Scotty.
Yeah.
You call that Scotty.
Yeah.
I have no leaves yet.
Yeah, yeah.
They're still on the trees. I
Yeah.
said, Mom, they'll come back.
In Scott's defense, I was just going to say, he was very good, so people would call, and
And
he'd go back.
He'd go back.
He'd go back, yes.
You know, because at the beginning he could whip through part of the town because everybody put their 2 leaves out.
Yeah,
So they didn't have to go back
Yeah.
and dump leaves.
yeah,
So at the end, they'd come back. But it was so funny. She was so
Yeah.
upset
yeah.
that they came when there were no leaves.
Nothing, I think we have 3 trucks now. I think.
Yes.
I think we have 3. So that obviously is going to be better.
Well, the third one was originally, Scotty had the idea that, God help me if one truck breaks down
Right now, you can't do anything.
and
Yeah.
it takes me 2 weeks to have it fixed.
Right, right,
So having the third truck, at least that's the way he pitched it to us.
right. Yeah,
At least I'll always have 2 trucks running, even if one breaks down.
yeah. Though this new program, right again, when he implements it, on its face right now, is getting very positive reviews.
Well, I think overall, the highway department's one of those that he can never win.
No, he's another one talking about being a piñata.
Oh, Chapter 90, the state contribution, never was enough.
No.
So that's why we augmented it with $500,000 of town money.
Yeah.
But even that's gone
Right.
before he can blink.
Yeah, and each year the snow and ice, well, I know you're talking about the Chapter 90, it really doesn't increase very much.
No.
It often almost levels from the
Well,
prior
when they
year.
increase it by 2%,
Yeah, it's
It's like-
$50,000.
Yeah, great.
Some number like that, and that when you have to do roads and with the cost of everything skyrocketing.
so if I'm a resident,
Yep.
as a town administrator, what message do you want to leave with me?
The message I want to leave, and I say this all the time, if you have an issue, if you have a question, I'd ask you to reach out. My email is right up there. I accept people who walk in. I don't schedule by appointment. Someone came in to me today, wasn't all that happy with certain things. I will leave it at that. And we sat in my the conference room that I have for a good 30 minutes. And he's going to follow it up with an email. So my message would be reach out. If you don't know which department to reach out to me.
I was going to say,
I will get you to the proper person, or I'll get you the information myself.
but if I call you and it's a health department issue, you'll
Absolutely.
transfer us down?
Absolutely, yes. That's a big part of, I say every day, I mean, we're like the switchboard. So for some reason, that number they want to call, but often, we'll get 2 or 3 calls at least a day. How do I get a birth certificate? Well, we know that.
Well, I got to admit, I mean, my cell phone being 1234,
Yours is easy, yeah. I can always remember yours.
people call and say, I need,
Yeah.
and it's like, guys, this is a private cell phone.
Yeah.
Call
When
2303.
I first saw that, I didn't believe that was your cell. Yeah.
Well, the home number's easier. It's 4444.
Okay. Well,
When I first started, I told the phone company, I wanted one number, like
Yeah.
444,
Yeah.
444,
Yeah.
4444.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it, but I got 478, 4444.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So it wasn't bad at all.
But I'd like people to think, please reach out. We will be responsive. I'm not saying I can solve every issue. Sometimes the answer is no. I had to
But
say
Rick-
no to a lady today. To her credit, she sent me a nice email saying, thank you for looking into this issue.
A lot of
for
it
me."
is I just want to know that somebody's paying attention.
Yeah, and this woman, that's what it was. I thought she was going to get angry because I couldn't do what she wanted to.
I'm spending
contractually.
$160
Couldn't do it.
million.
Yep.
I feel like somebody ought to listen to me.
Yes, and they're right. They're right. They're right. I keep it. We're customer oriented. We're treating a customer. I take it back to my law office. I had to treat my clients very well because they may not come back. Well, that's the case here. That they'll come back, but they'll come back angry. So that's different. It's a different scenario. But yeah.
Well, thank you for all that you do.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been great working with people like yourself and everybody else, and that's the main reason I'm still going. My health is good, knock on wood, but I appreciate that. Thank
Glad
you.
to hear it.
Yeah.
And to our 6 loyal viewers, thank you for joining us. As always, Milford is a gem. It's an onion with many, many layers.
Yeah.
And it always amazes me that even being involved, I learn more and more what Milford offers as part of our tax program. We don't pay for designer trash bags. We don't have to pay for the leaves being picked up. There's so many things.
Yep.
Our kids get to ride the school bus as part of our taxes.
Yep.
But don't assume something isn't available. And if you have a question, call.
Yeah.
And as always, may God bless. May tomorrow be a better day than today. Good night, all.